Ninth Avenue is one of the main streets in Port Arthur. Today, Ninth Avenue continues on to Highway 365 in Mid-County, but it ended there at Highway 73 for most of our lives. In our time, Ninth Avenue ran all the way from Highway 73 through Pear Ridge and ended just before the Intercoastal Canal, or what some call the Ship Channel. Its importance cannot be overstated, both as an artery of transportation within the city and a road that lives deep in our cherished memories. For those of us who grew up in Port Arthur, Ninth Avenue was one of those streets on which we spent much of our lives, driving up and down as we headed from one place or another, or to the home of a friend who happened to live nearby. We crossed it quite a number of times, virtually every day as we scurried about town. For many of us, Ninth Avenue began at Highway 73, where Bishop Byrne High School and Arthur Stillwell Technical Center once stood. From there, it passed 39th Street through Pear Ridge, sometimes referred to as the Poor Man's Griffin Park. Pear Ridge was once its own community for many years before being annexed by Port Arthur. The town was filled with modest homes owned by middle-income families who more than likely made their living at one of the local refineries or one of the supporting industries in the area. Pear Ridge had a local government, a fire department, a water tower, and a dog catcher. The Ninth Avenue Business Corridor contained every type of business imaginable, from small family-run businesses to an icon of the area, St. Mary's Hospital. Ninth Avenue business owners prospered over the years, as did Port Arthur. Everyone remembers their local corner store, barbershop, florist, the gas stations, automotive repair shops, and restaurants, and so much more. Located to the left stands an empty lot where the Pear Ridge Town Hall used to be. It also housed the fire department. The water tower stood tall in the back, and I have to wonder, who remembers the dances held at that town hall? I sure do. After Port Arthur annexed Pear Ridge, the building was repurposed as a center for local events. It became the headquarters of a neighborhood watch group, the Concerned Citizens of Pear Ridge. As we come up on the intersection of 9th Avenue and 32nd Street, we can all close our eyes and still see it, just as it was when we were young. As I recall, that intersection was home to a convenience store, a Gulf service station, and a clothes cleaning business. It was also one of the routes we could use to get to Griffin Park or Jefferson City, an open-air mall created before air-conditioning malls were a thing. Who remembers that jingle? Come to Jefferson City, where there's everything under the sun. I'm sure not going to try to sing it for you. And a few people would never know they're very near the childhood home of Port Arthur's own Janis Joplin. From there, 32nd Street would take you to Groves or any other area of adventure. The power lines that dominate the skyline along 9th Avenue followed the route of the old interurban train tracks, a passenger train that ran between Beaumont and Port Arthur. It terminated around Austin Avenue and Proctor Street and ran until 1932. On the left side of the road, in what we all knew as the curve in 9th Avenue, are a number of buildings that usually housed automotive and service businesses that help to keep your car running, unstop your plumbing, or repair your television. To the right was the original Hewan School for crippled children. The name changed in 1976 as it became the Bob Hope School for Crippled Children, named after the beloved movie star whose heart was wrapped up with the school, who raised money for a worthy cause. It was the best school of its kind and helped disabled children in an era when there were few options for afflicted kids. Continuing east, who remembers the big old Baptist church on the left side of the road? I was always so enamored with the huge steps. And just down the road from it, who remembers the modern automatic car wash? 9th Avenue then approaches 25th Street, yet another major intersection. Several businesses operated around that intersection. On the north corner, across from the cemetery, was the once popular snow cone stand. We enjoyed that place very much during the hot Port Arthur summers. Tweedel, Texaco, and the hardware store were on the west corner or the right-hand side of this video. Across 25th Street stands an empty lot where the Weingarten shopping center once stood. It held everything from Tom McCann's shoes, the Weingarten's grocery store, TG&Y, or the dime store, along with several other clothing stores. It was a popular shopping center where many local residents bought much of their daily needs. To the left side, Calvary Catholic Cemetery still stands. It's the smaller of the two cemeteries in town where many of our loved ones are buried. On the right, just before the railroad tracks and behind what was Weingarten Shopping Center, lies a triangular patch of trees. That patch of trees holds fond memories for many of us. We call the area the Hobo Woods, or the Hobo Trail. As its name implies, it was a popular jumping-off point for hobos hitching a ride along the train tracks. For us, it was a place of great adventure, where we would dash off and ride our bikes on the trails that lined the woods, looking for fun and exploration, and a little bit of misadventure and mischief, riding our bikes as fast as we could up and down those trails, jumping hills and ditches, and running up next to the train tracks. The railroad track is a vital artery of the Kansas City Southern Railroad, the source of Arthur Stilwell's empire, and the business that first put Port Arthur on the map. For us kids who lived in the area, the tracks were a source of simple pleasures, fond memories of telling stories of adventure, squashing pennies under the wheels of the train and watching the trains just go by, wondering where they came from and where they were going. As we cross the railroad tracks, 9th Avenue changes from running through Pear Ridge to running next to Griffin Park. Lombardy Avenue merges with 9th Avenue just after crossing the tracks. Mason's Barbershop stood near that merger in a small business park on the right side of the road. It was an upscale concern that catered to men looking for the best in pampering while enjoying a relaxing experience in all things pertaining to masculine hair care. Continuing eastward, we see the empty green field on the left-hand side of the video. It was once home to the Griffin Apartments, but they are long gone. The empty field on the right side is one of the biggest holes along the 9th Avenue business corridor, and one that weighs heavy in our hearts. It's the site of the former St. Mary's Hospital. Torn down in 2020 after nearly 90 years of dutiful service to Port Arthur and the citizens of the general area. If you were from Port Arthur, you were probably born at St. Mary's, and it was where you would go if you needed emergency medical attention. If you look in the background and to the left, you can see St. James Catholic Church. It's been dubbed by many to be the Cathedral of Port Arthur, one of the grandest churches in town, from an era when faith was as important to a community as money. Many of us were married there and remember hearing the Angelus or the church bells ringing at noon and 6 p.m. When I think back, I remember those bells gave me a reassuring feeling. They reminded me of all the good things in my life. And who remembers hearing the Colleens practicing on that big green field behind the hospital? I still remember the music they played, the beat of their drums. The Colleens live on in the memories of many. I know they do in mine. To the left and across the street from St. Mary's is the Snell Shopping Center, home to various businesses over the years. Its most enduring tenant is Drago Hardware, a family business that has been an anchor in the community for many generations. But before Drago's was there, who remembers the Hinkie and Pilat store that occupied that same area? I thought the doors of that place were just magic. How in the world did they know how to open just at the right time as we walked up? As we continued down 9th Avenue, to the left was the location where Port Arthur enjoyed its first Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant. A block or so later, 9th Avenue goes on to intersect with Gulfway Drive. Gulfway Drive and Proctor Street are perhaps two of the more notable streets in town. The baby boomer generation called Gulfway Drive their own, spending most Friday evenings and much of Saturday evenings driving up and down Gulfway. Continuing down 9th Avenue, in the upper left-hand corner stands Tet Plaza, one of the first major developments owned by Vietnamese immigrants who came to the area in the 1980s. Across the street is Patwood Drug Store, one of the oldest independent drugstores in town. Continuing further, though not on 9th Avenue, just off to the right would have been what is known in my brother's generation as Thomas Jefferson Senior High. When the new school was built in 1959, the building was renamed Thomas Edison Junior High. Just another old building that's no longer there, though the memories we created there live on in our minds and our hearts. Many of us would take the turn on 12th Street or Thomas Boulevard, then down to 7th Avenue and make another right to get to the school. Though it was over 50 years ago, our memories of our Golden Falcons are still vivid in our minds. On the left side, gone but not forgotten, is the lot where Howard's grocery store once stood. Built and expanded over the years, Mr. Howard, as he was known, started his business in a garage and expanded it to what was the largest independent grocery store in Port Arthur. Some people say in the entire state of Texas. He and his family served the neighborhood for generations, offering a friendly face and a smile to families from miles around before its closure in the 90s. He even built a covered parking structure so his customers wouldn't get wet when they shopped at his store. Though the store is long gone, that parking structure, at least to this point, has survived the worst nature's been able to throw at it. Beyond that, the Golden Trio Cinema held fond memories for children and adults alike until its closure in 1983. Many of us remember the old building as the Port Theater, but that's just for the really old folks like me. This part of 9th Avenue changed in the 1980s as it became the home to a large Vietnamese immigrant population. They made this area their own, developing the church and building the Queen of Peace Shrine, which houses a large statue of the Virgin Mary as a testament to their faith and community vitality. Beyond that, you'll find a number of flourishing shops and businesses, stores that brought a taste of Vietnamese culture to Port Arthur. The best of which, many will tell you, is their food. They improved this part of town when much of the area was in deep decline. 9th Avenue continues for yet another block, terminating just before the ship channel, just after the intersection of 9th Avenue and Proctor Street. We know we'll turn one way or the other as we come to the end of this video, but it's not the end of our journey. In turning right or left, we'll continue our adventures, and we hope you'll come along with us. Thank you for watching. We sure enjoy your company.